Okay, so are we good?
We're ready.
All righty, ready. Well, I see a lot of friends and people that old timers, newcomers, all of that. So, anyway, so what we're going to be talking about today is communication and how can I get through to you? Uh, it's been said that women have 20,000 words a day to speak, and men use about 7,000. I think a lot of times we use, as women, sometimes we use ours up faster and then borrow some of theirs. I don't know. But anyway, uh, communication between men and women, and I'm seeing all women here, except I'm seeing Ronald Yancey on here, and I'm wondering if that's my long-term friend from way back. I wished he'd show his face, but anyway, I don't see a lot of men on here. Uh, I see mostly women today, but we're going to be talking about communication. Oh, there's a man. There's Earl. He's driving. All righty. So, the four most dreaded words that men hate to hear is, honey, can we talk? Honey, can we talk? Because usually what men make up is, oh my God, what have I done now? So they take it a lot of times as being critical. So communication is not just between men and women, husbands and wives. It can be in the workplace. Men and women communicate different. And so this talk that things that I want to talk about can be applied to your relationships or your personal relationships or your relationships with employees or employers, and because men and women, I think, communicate different. So one of the things that I'll say is that I was pretty quiet, had always been pretty quiet. In fact, I was more shy. And then till I met and married a man that uh, would shut down. He could not talk. Well, that revved me up, and I talked, and he got quiet. And what he would do if something happened, and we got into a fuss, and it was usually about money or sex, and I mean that's typical of most coupleships, whether they're same-sex marriage or whatever. But anyway, he would go silent. He would go silent. And not that anyone was counting, but one time he went 30 days without speaking to me. He'd talk to the kids, he'd speak to the neighbors, pet the dog, would not talk to me. Another time, about 18 days. And what I read just the other day, and I knew it because I experienced it, is that silence is the ultimate of emotional abuse. It's like being completely ignored, like you don't matter. So many years ago, Kim, that my middle daughter, and my son, who was a couple of years, 3 years older, they had were scheduled to have their tonsils out. They'd been very, very, very sick, and so we had scheduled to have their tonsils out. And of course, I was the one at home and my husband worked. And, that was that traditional way families were mostly set up then. It's become different in a lot of households today because it takes both partners a lot of times to make a living. But nevertheless, I did everything at home. And so I had set up for babysitting. We had no parents support at all. We depended on friends, and I had kept a friend's children for a weekend, and she was going to keep our children while I went to the hospital with our children that were having their tonsils out. And the day that day before we were to go to get the tonsils out, I had 5 million things to do. I was freezing food. I was just doing a lot of stuff. And my friend called, and they'd had a death in the family, and she reported that she couldn't keep the children. And I didn't know what to do. And I am usually, usually typically a pretty strong person, but I started crying and I couldn't stop. I could not stop crying. It scared my children to death. They called their father, they called the neighbors, and before I knew it, I was also a pink lady. I was a volunteer at our local hospital, and there was one ward. Pink ladies, you go around and deliver books, or you volunteer, and so I did that amongst all the other things that I did. But there was one floor on the top floor that we couldn't go on, and we'd kind of joke about it because we all knew it was the mental health ward, and we'd all joke about it. We better watch out. They'll put you up on the top floor. Well, guess what? They did take me to the hospital because I couldn't quit crying. And I did wind up on the top floor because I had a complete mental breakdown. Now, the psychiatrist, when he came to see me, and I saw him a few times, he said I had an emotional breakdown brought on by physical fatigue, just being so tired. And so we would talk. And then one day he wanted to see my husband. And he told my husband, he said, "This lady needs you to talk to her and listen to her. That's all she needs. Now you can pay me $150 an hour and I'll listen to her, or you can talk to her." So my husband tried. He attempted to, but he really didn't have the words. He wasn't taught communication by his parents. And men talk about achievements, and they're honored for their achievements and their way that they make a living for their family and all of that. And women, we talk emotions, we talk feelings. And if the secret is to help men learn to talk from their feelings and to share feelings. And that is not an easy task. I used to run a small private practice. And the women would come to see me because she usually had already filed for divorce. And then, she tried to get her husband to go to counseling. And this was pretty typical of all of them. I mean, every one of them. And the only reason that he would come to see me, the husband, was to get her to not file the papers, not to file for divorce, that he wanted the marriage to work. And I said, but something's got to change. So I started working with men, and I had mainly a practice of men married men, because if you can teach a man how to treat a woman, you'll be amazed at how the relationship will will get better. Now, I'm not saying it's always the man's fault. It's not. But men, a lot of times, don't have a listening for their wives, and they can't hear or feel or report their feelings. So I'm not bad mouthing men. I'm just saying, uh, men have to be taught how to communicate. They may be great communicators in the business. They may be great communicators on the golf course with other men. But when it comes to the one that's the most important to them is their wives, a lot of times they can't communicate. So I'm going to want to talk about some tools for communication. And actually, this can work for anyone. But particularly in different relationships where there's men and women with bosses. When you have man bosses, it's important to really understand how men communicate and how women communicate. It is entirely different, folks, usually. So bear with me. So one of the things that is the most important is to have active listening. And what that means is pay attention and give the person your undivided attention. And that means no cell phones. Cell phones, it's just a common thing for people to hold a phone while carrying on a conversation. And that's a distraction. And what that says to the other person is, you're not quite that important enough for me to put this phone down. So, active listening is you pay attention and you have a listening, for the other person and give them your undivided attention. Now, this goes for women too. I mean, absolutely. My daughter Kim taught me a lot one day about communication when she was just a little bitty, or not a little girl, probably early teen, maybe not that old. But anyway, I was a busy mother like most mothers, and I was at the kitchen cabinet washing dishes and cooking or whatever I was doing. I was busy. And Kim came up beside of me and she wanted to talk to me. And I said, well, just stand here and talk to me while I keep working. And she said, but mother, you're not looking at my eyes. I want you to look at me in my eyes. And that's what this is. This is like pay attention to the person that is talking with you. Look at them, make eye contact with them, and give up your full, undivided attention. And, that's hard when you are a busy person, but the best gift you can give your children is have a listening for them. And then when they're talking, the second thing is don't interrupt. I really, really, really had to learn that the hard way, because when someone was talking, I would have a thought. And instead of saving that thought, I would interrupt them, and then they would get off track and I would take the floor. That is very rude to interrupt. So that goes along with just listening. We don't always have to have an answer for everything. And, don't interrupt the person while they're talking. And then the third thing is watch your nonverbal communication. Y'all all know this. When you are around somebody that really doesn't want to listen to you, just watch those arms cross. And you couldn't get through to them. I don't care what you're saying. It's that I'm putting up a wall. Can you see me? And I'm not going to hear you. Uh, or there's different ways, tapping, like you're so anxious for them to get through saying what they want to say so you can go on about your day. So watch, and the eye rolling. I mean, this goes for teenagers. I think they're born to roll their eyes, when parents are talking to them. And adults can do this when you're not interested in what the other person's saying. You roll your eyes like, here she goes again. And then another thing is ask questions. And I'll give you a little hint about communication. The person that's asking the questions is in control. If you really want to be in control, ask questions about the other person. And then when they answer it, say, well, tell me more. If you want to get someone talking, engage them and asking questions. And then when they tell you, because and I'm not picking on men, but a lot of times men will just use those few short words. And so if you really want to engage in a conversation, just say, well, tell me more. Tell me more. And then listen with intention. And then, number 5, don't give advice unless you're asked for it. Do not give advice. And I've mentioned this, I think, last week. Our children teach us more than we ever want to know, probably, but our children do teach us a lot. And my daughter that's here today, Karen, my oldest daughter, she was at Tech at college. And I thought mothers needed to have the answers. And so she called me one day and she said, now, Mother, I want to talk with you about something. And all I want you to do is listen. I don't want you to give me any advice or give me your opinion. I just want you to listen. So she taught me that gift of listening. Sometimes we need to just get something off of our chest about someone, not in a gossiping way, but we just need to be able to talk with someone that is safe without them, interrupting or giving us advice or all of that. So Karen really taught me a lot about that. And then my son, I'm just going to use all my kids. My son Kelly taught me about wait until I'm asked. to give advice. And I really have with my children. I don't know what my grown kids would say, but I really have. I don't meddle in their business. But I can always tell when my son has a problem. It's not as bad as it used to be. I mean, not as bad, it never was bad. But throughout his adult life, his growing up years, he was very close to me, and not in a smothering way. But what he would say to me, he'd call and say, Mother, I need to talk to you. And I'd say, okay. And I'd say, when will you be out here? Because he didn't want to talk on the phone. And so he taught me to really just have a listening for someone, for him. And then he would ask me for advice. He'd say, now, I may not take it. I may not take it, but I would like to have your opinion, And so my children have all taught me different ways to communicate and what not to do. And then my youngest daughter, I'll tell you, Christy K, if there was ever like a perfect child, and there's not, she would pretty much win the award. And what my youngest daughter would do is she would sit back. She's kind of played the lost role child. A lot of times the younger one will. She sat back and she observed what was going on in the household. And she learned when to talk and when not to talk. And so when Christy would say something, and even today, when Christy says something, we all listen because she knows what she's talking about. She's already done the research. She doesn't just talk, and she does not gossip. She doesn't talk about people. None of us gossip. Now we may share some loving concerns. I'm joking, but anyway, Christy is one that really, we all listen when she speaks. So ask questions, don't give advice. And when you do speak clearly, and really get to the point. Don't be a rabbit chaser. Now, I can chase rabbits. And, I'll start talking about something and then I'll think about something else and I'll get into rabbit trailing. Y'all know what rabbit trailing is. And I'll get clear over here out in the North Party and I'll have to bring myself back to the moment. Stay in the moment, speak clearly. And when you're done, be quiet. But be articulate and, like I say, stay on topic. Don't do the rabbit trailing. And another thing about communication is, if you're talking about something pretty serious, that maybe something has happened between a close friend or a family member, this is what we talk about, stay in the moment. We have a tendency to go all the way back. Well, do you remember when you did so and so, when you did this, and you've been doing this forever, and you blah, 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 and you're going to lose the person. You're losing that person in the conversation, and they're already mad at you, and they've stopped listening to you. So stay in the moment. Don't drag it past. And then another thing is when you are talking with a person, we teach here how important it is to mirror back and you have to really pay attention and listen to the other person if you're going to mirror back what they said. And when I'm doing a group, when someone says something and I'll ask someone to mirror back what you heard them say. 9 times out of 10 they can't. They'll make up other words, they'll make up something else. And the purpose of that is because the reason they can't mirror back is because they wouldn't listen. They were getting ready for that person to stop talking so they can talk. So this listening is a big deal. So when you mirror back what someone else has said, you just say, I just want to check out, is this really what you said? And then mirror that back to them. And if you've interpreted it wrong, let them clarify that. That's what good communication is, because we make up so much in our brain that is not true. So check it out, by mirroring back and say, this is what I heard. And if it's not what they said, then keep talking. until you get to a resolution. Okay, and then another thing is have some empathy for the other person. Have empathy. We never know what burden another person is carrying. We never know. Now, empathy is different than sympathy. Sympathy is helping someone feel sorry for themselves. Now when someone has lost someone in death or tragic something has happened, sympathy is very warranted during that time, and it is good to have sympathy for someone that is going through a huge trial, in their life. But to help someone feel sorry for themselves with sympathy, you can find it in the dictionary between shiftless and between shit and syphilis. You can find sympathy between shit and syphilis, and it'll do you about as much good. Sympathy, particularly for an addict, will kill them. When you sympathize with an addict, oh, bless your heart. I know life is so tough, and I know that's why you relapsed. Oh, poor thing. You'll kill an addict with that kind of sympathizing. But you can have empathy. Empathy is, I hear you, I understand, and if you don't understand their particular addiction, don't say you do, because if you've not woke up in jail from, after being arrested from alcoholism, you have no idea what it's like, so you can't empathize, but you can have empathy for the pain they're going through. So it's just about a little clarity of communication. And then trust. In order to have healthy communication, we need to build up trust with other people. And one of the things that I used to do we used to do 3-day break and freeze, and I used to do this sculpt where a couple meets and greets, when they first meet, well, they just meet and then if there's an attraction, then the second stage is they start getting to know each other. And then the third stage of a healthy relationship, whether it's a love relationship or just between friends, the third step of a healthy relationship is you share something with that other person that is not necessarily a secret, but more intimate, something about you that you wouldn't want the whole world to know. And watch how quick it comes back to you. If you tell something to someone and they go tell it to somebody else, it will make its way back to you. And what that tells you, you cannot trust that person. Don't give much information to that person that you don't want the whole world to know. And that's trust. That shows how much you can trust the person. Now, if you really think a lot of the person, you can work with that and quit telling them anything, or be honest about, that information came back to you. What that's going to tell you is everything you say to that person, they're going to go tell it to somebody else. And for me, that needs to pretty much end a relationship unless the other person is willing to own it and work through that. And the only reason we gossip about other people or listen to gossip is to make ourselves feel better. It's the only reason. So, and then that fourth stage of any relationship is if you can, a dependent relationship is where you're just all balled up together. That's a dependent relationship where you suck the blood out of each other. This can be friend to friend. It can be partner to partner. It doesn't always have to be, a marriage. It's anywhere. You just got to have that one friend and you're dependent on each other. But how you can tell if you're in a healthy relationship is if you can be interdependent and go out of the relationship be with other people, learn from other people, get new information, get new hobbies, do things that you get excited about that maybe your partner doesn't even like. And then you bring that back into the coupleship and it enhances the coupleship. But if you just depend on each other and you stay all wadded up in a ball, you'll get very sick together. And that dependency, that sick dependency. And if one goes out, to maybe break free of this triangle, this one will either fall flat on their face and get some help, or they'll try to get this one back in here, that codependency there. So if I was doing this for relationships, then the fifth stage of getting to know someone in a relationship, a coupleship, is the sex. Now, somewhere in our world, sex has become like shaking hands. People meet and greet to have sex, and then they wonder why their marriage doesn't work, because they don't even get to know each other. So, anyway, I'll just leave it at that. And so, when you trust someone, you can realize you might have a difference of opinion, you might have problems. But to keep the problems out here, don't make it each other. He's not the problem, she's not the problem. The problem is here. And if you can both look at it and find a way to solve the problem and not make each other the problem, which a lot of times we do, well, we wouldn't be overdrawn at the bank if you hadn't bought those new shoes. Well, we wouldn't, things like that, So look at the problem and not beat each other up. And at all costs, no name calling. Don't call each other names, because you can't, what is said, you can't ever take it back. You cannot ever take it back. Once it's out of our mouth, it is gone. It's out there. So be wise with your words, and have a listening for each other, where it's in a love relationship, a friend relationship, people at church, people in a 12-step program, wherever. Be gentle with your words and quick to, the big book tells us that we are light on others and heavy on ourselves. We're easy on others and heavy on ourselves. And what that means is cut each other slack and look at your own problems first. And once you get that perfected, then you can go and solve other people's problems. So communication is a beautiful thing when it's done with dignity, love, and respect. I want to go back to the coupleship. And I'm not beating up men. Men, I don't believe, have really been taught how to communicate. I don't think they have. Communicate from feelings. And then women, majority of women are all about wanting to communicate on an emotional level. When we wonder why there are so many divorces, For instance, this is just a scenario. This man has been on a business trip. Maybe he's pretty high up in his company. He's fought hard for that job. He's worked many hours, and he's been off on a business trip, and he can hardly wait to get home to his wife and kids. And in his head, he's going to walk in that front door, and everybody's just going to be so excited. Daddy's home, honey's home. They're going to just meet and greet him with such joy. All right, that's what's going on in his head. So here's the wife. Now, she has a full-time job. Maybe she has 2 or 3 children, maybe under school age or even school age, that she's trying to get places. Maybe one of them has been sick, and maybe she's on the phone trying to make a doctor's appointment, and the kids are screaming. One of them's throwing oatmeal at the other one. There's total chaos, but daddy's home. And he gets his feelings hurt if not everyone doesn't drop what they're doing and welcome him home. And so the wife is on the phone trying to make a doctor's appointment. He gets his feelings hurt, and she's sitting there holding the phone. He makes up that she's talking something to a friend that doesn't mean anything. So he gets mad at her, and then she gets her feelings hurt from him, and then they wind up she wants a divorce because this happens over and over and over and over. And it's not anyone's fault. And if you can teach a man how to love a woman and how to be there and connect emotionally with a woman, you're going to have a good marriage. And men are very trainable. They are very trainable. My little husband had no earthly idea how to communicate. And, I found my voice inside that marriage. And when he would drink, I'd scream and holler. And I was a rager, and he was scared to death of me. My father was a rager and he was violent. Well, I thought all men was violent. I thought if a man loved you, they were willing to beat somebody up for you. So I could never make him the bully and the rager. So I became the bully and the rager, and I scared him to death. So I spent 14 years in Al-Anon before before he ever made his first meeting in Alcoholics Anonymous. And it took years. It took years for us to come together emotionally. But we both decided that we would stay together. And I heard a wise woman say, and I use this all the time, unless you're in an abusive relationship, physically abusive, stay with the one that brought you to the dance and learn to dance with them. Once you get that dance down, once you know how to live with a person, once you get okay with yourself inside that relationship, you're free to stay or go. If you go prematurely, you'll just go recreate the same scenario somewhere else. But if you will stay and become different, your partner will either lean in and begin to go on the track with you, or there probably won't be a marriage, or there'll be problems in the workplace if you're doing this in the workplace. So we could go on and on about communication, but the main thing is say what you mean what you say, and say it with love. Say it with love. At the bottom, the end of the day, life is hard. Make your words. It doesn't have to all be sappy, but I'm saying talk from the heart, speak from the heart. I want to give you an experience I had yesterday that made a profound effect on me. I have a hard time finding anyone to cut my hair. And every time I go anywhere and I see a haircut I like, I say, who cut your hair? And I'll go to that person, and I don't like that, and I'll do. Anyway, I found a woman down, I think 35 miles from where I live, down in Coleman, that guaranteed me she could cut my hair the way that I wanted. So Misty and I took me down there. I don't drive anymore. And so we went down there. And when we found the shop, it was kind of out in the country and it didn't look very good. And I just didn't want to go in there. Miss Uppity, I thought, anyway, I did. I had an appointment and I went in there. And I'll tell you, that's one of the best experiences I've ever had in my life. Here was a beautiful blonde single mom. She had a little girl 3 years old and a boy 12 in school. She was divorced. Her husband had an affair. And I tried my best not to be her counselor. But anyway, she got to talking. Now, this little girl, this 3-year-old, she had brought her to work there. She said she did her son and then until he got to school. And then she had that little 3-year-old in that beauty shop, just her. She's a sole owner, sole operator. I have never experienced a child quite like that. She had a little stool and her mother said, okay, pull your stool out. She got up there on that one side of the shampoo bowl and she'd take her little hands and help her mother wash my hair. And then she'd take her stool down and open the cabinet door and get out the towel for her mother. And she would jabber, and I couldn't understand a word she said, but her mother would mirror back every word that child said. And the mother said that one of her clients told the mother to quit interpreting what the child said. I said, no, you keep doing exactly what you're doing because you're mirroring back to that child the right words. And she could understand every word she said. That child, when after my hair was cut, the child got the broom and a dustpan and swept up the hair. 3 years old, 3 years old. And I watched that mother, and that mother had so much dignity and respect for herself, and it spilled over in that child. And I don't know why I'm telling you this, other than just that experience brought me so much joy. And watching that mother communicate with that child, that's what healthy communication is. She never once raised her voice. She never once told the, now when the child was uh, doing something and she said something, is that your best choice? Or, to that. Anyway, the mother could have been a therapist. Most hairdressers can. But anyway, I just got so much joy sitting in there watching the communication between that mother and that child. And you can tell when it's real and when it's fake. It was absolutely heartfelt. That child had a place in that beauty shop. She had one doll that had real long hair that she'd go over there and fix that doll's hair. And then she had another one with shorter hair. And she was busy the whole time that I was there. And then I gave her $1 tip. And she liked it because she had $1 that was crushed and she didn't think that they would spend at the store, and her mother straightened her that. But anyway, I'm just sharing that with you, that communication matters. It matters whether they're 3 years old, 30 years old, or whatever age. Communication matters. And I believe unconditional positive regard and love is the answer. So y'all talk to me. How do you communicate? How would you like people to communicate with you? Are you a good communicator? Let's talk about it. Who wants to go first? Don't make me have to call on you. Okay, Sarah.
All right. So I'm an Enneagram type 8. So I communicate very directly. And that can sometimes be a problem, especially when I'm working with sponsees who need a little bit more fluffy words, as I call them. It's hard for me to do that, but I'm able to do it when I need to. I just got out of a pretty long relationship, but he had been to Shays as well. And so he and I very, very regularly wrote confrontations back and forth to each other as like a part of our relationship. I think one of the most loving, positive things you can do in a relationship is write confrontations, because it allows you to tell that other person what you need and how to be successful with you. Mm-hmm. So instead of like having people guess what we need, it's much easier to just say, hey, right now, I'm needing a little bit of space, or right now I'm needing you to do the dishes, or, right now, this is what I'm needing. And, people are usually pretty receptive to that because they want to be successful.
Yes. Yes. And so many times we get into that romantic thinking that, well, they ought to know what I need, right. And my husband would say things, and it's so crude, but he'd say, well, I can't look at your ass and read your mind. You have to tell me what you want, and that's true. We have to ask for what we need, be willing to hear no sometimes. But when we hear yes, if we're with healthy people, when someone tells us yes, if they're healthy, they're going to be all in, and they're not going to have a string attached, that codependency deal. I'll do something for you if you'll do something for me. So that's good. Thanks, Sarah. And confrontations work if both parties know how to do them and will set boundaries along with the confrontations. Yeah, thanks. All righty, who's next? Lori?
Hi, Tim.
Hi, Lori.
Thank you so much. I tend to go around, like you said, get to the point. And I know that's my codependency. I have a hard time and I lose the person because I'm giving them examples to where in my mind, the examples are drawing to the point, but because they don't know my point, they don't understand what this circle I'm in. And it shocked me when my 16-year-old fed that back to me. He said, Mom, you say all this stuff. Just tell me what you want me to know. And that was like a slap in my face because I'm the parent. So I always think I'm a million steps ahead of the kid. And for him to call me out on that, I was like, how does he know that? It's 16.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's my communication style. I feel resentful when I hear the stories of like the beauty salon owner and her little child. I feel resentful because I don't have those kind of references. And I feel like I don't know how to create that kind of thing for my kid. Like how you loved that story, you loved seeing that example. I feel like I didn't have that. So I don't know how to go create some great example like that. And I get resentful, and that's not normal. And I had a question when you said, unless there's abuse, stay and learn to do the dance with your partner. Do you just mean physical abuse, or do you mean if there was emotional, financial, or mental abuse? Because I was married to a narcissist, because I was this people pleaser, nice person. So I left because there was a lot of abuse mentally. So,
Well, what we create our own classroom. And what I say is if you stay in a relationship where you're not getting what you need or want, and you learn in that relationship how to become who you are and can stand tall inside that relationship, then you can stand tall in any relationship. It's like practice with the one that you're married to. Now, I'm not saying stay, but stay until you feel strong enough about yourself that you're not having to go towards another man or towards something, that you are strong enough to get out of a relationship that's not fulfilling, but that you take yourself intact, that you're okay with yourself. Now, we've talked about this before, Lori, is in order to work on those resentments of our childhood, and we have to be very careful that we don't bring our childhood into our parenting, is, I've invited you to come do the intensive here, because what our 4-day intensive is looking at those childhood wounds. And I wasn't taught anything in my childhood about how to have a healthy relationship. But what I did is I wanted to learn, and I started probably at age 16 buying every self-help book that I could get. I wanted to know how to, be healthy, but it wasn't coming from my home, and it never did. So, you know, what it amounts to, we have to become our own healthy parent.
yeah.
And grow ourselves up. And that's hard. That's hard because there's a big missing there in your childhood. There's, if you didn't used to that, in ACOA, Adult Children of Alcoholics, the movement at first, it was said, oh, it's never too late to have a happy childhood. Yes, it is. We cannot go back and have a happy childhood. If you didn't have it, you missed it, and you cannot create that. But you can do your work around it and do the shame and anger reduction work and the resentment work and leave the past in the past and bring it up into our adult life and have a wonderful adult life and become our own parent. I wouldn't go back and be a kid or a teenager if God said, I'm going to zap you back. Yeah, I wouldn't do that. It's too hard. I love being an adult because I can take care of myself, ask for what I need, and you're getting there. You're doing, you get on this and you're doing some things. But I really support you in either coming here or do something to lance that ball on the inside, that resentment that you have from your childhood. because resentment is like acid. It burns out the container that holds it. So keep getting on here. Let's keep getting, keep talking, and you don't have to pass the dysfunction on to your children. Some of it will probably trickle down, but what I always say, just put some money in the therapy jar. Have a jar and just put money in the therapy jar. When you haven't felt like you did your best parenting. So glad to hear from you today, Lori.
Thank you.
Diane and Gingy.
Hi, Tennie. Great topic. I've never been very good at communication. I've never been like a fair weather talker. We could sit and talk about our kids, we could talk about my work or my business, but when it just come talking about every day, how's the weather and stuff, I've never been good at that. I have to work at that kind of a conversation because I'm just that, I'm right on whatever that point is, that's what I want to get to. Being in program has taught me a lot about communicating with others. And one thing, I never leave my grandkids without telling them how precious they are and that how much they're loved by me and by God. And, because those are things I didn't get as a child. And, I don't think that any child can get too much of that.
No.
And it always brings smiles to their face. And that makes me feel good because that's what I want to impart to them. But I don't just do it to my grandkids. I do it to any child I'm around.
Good for you.
They're important. I missed way too much in my own childhood.
Yes.
And I learned in program not to give advice because I was a know-it-all when I came into program, and I could tell you how to fix your life and would just scatter that everywhere, anywhere without you even asking. But in program, I learned you don't give advice, or you don't do it without it being asked.
Yeah.
And my children taught me not to even do it then.
Yeah.
Because they would ask for advice and I would give it to them, my daughter-in-laws or my sons. And then that would come back and slap me really bad. And I got to where now when they ask for advice, I say, I might make a reply, but so I know they know I'm listening. But I always say, well, I'll pray about that because I can't get an answer. I can't put myself in between them ever again because that's too hard. And I don't be in that place. So with that, thank you.
Thanks, Diane. Gingy? Hello? Is she still here?
Yeah, hey there, Tennie.
How are you?
I'm doing great. Such a blessing to see you today. Great topic. One of the best things I ever learned from you, the Tennie-ism of sometimes it needs a good letting alone. Can you talk to us a little bit more about communication and resolving conflict and the concept of sometimes it needs a good letting alone?
Yeah, that's exactly. Sometimes, when we're around difficult people and they really don't want to hear anything we have to say, it's really best to, like I say, just give them a good letting alone. And what that will do is it'll put their problem back on them. But if we're in there arguing with them or trying to straighten them out or give them advice or anything, then we become the problem. And they get mad at us. So a lot of times, if you can just leave people where they are, give them a good letting alone, a lot of times they will sense that they do have a problem and they might want some help, but as long as we're in there trying to make it happen, it's not our job. It's not our job to make it happen. I always like this, step 7, and the way I describe step 7 is, and this is not about religion or anything, but anyway, I do believe in Jesus, and Jesus would work with people, and he'd work with them and work with them and work with them and share and love them. And when he finally got that they didn't want anything he had to offer, what he would do is he would shake the dust off of his sandals. He would turn his positive side to their negative side and walk away. And that's what give him a good letting alone is. turn your positive side to their negative side and go on down the road. Because if you stay in there and argue with them, you will become the problem. They will direct it at you. So does that help? Ginger,
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. I needed that refresher, Tennie.
All righty. Thank you. Who's next? Okay, Jackie.
Hey there, Tennie.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Nice seeing everyone's sweet faces. Something that I used to do that I was very guilty of in my relationship with my husband, because I'm an oversharer, is sometimes I wouldn't share at all though, and I would expect him to do as your sweet RL, right?
Yes.
Yeah, used to call you out and say I couldn't read your mind. My husband has been guilty of telling me that exact same thing. I can't read your mind. I'm not a mind reader would be his thing. And what was sick about me is I thought he could and I expected him to. And then when he didn't, I would resent him for not knowing what I wanted him to do because I never told him. I just expected him to know. Well, he's been with me long enough. He should know I don't like this or I want that. He had no damn clue. And it was unfair and unfortunate because I was.
Did you unmute?
Sorry,
Okay.
I apologize. But it was unfair to him because the man couldn't read my mind, but I expected him to and thought he could. And then when he couldn't, I resented him for it. So there's so much truth in that. So the other thing he used to tell me is, Jackie, most men talk or think in bullet points where women communicate
Essays.
paragraphs and color, and I'm black and white. So I just dummy it down for me. Just get to the, sometimes I would ramble on and he'd like, you've lost me. I don't even know what the point is here.
Yeah.
So I think changing the way I communicate with him has made our relationship so much stronger because I am now able to, not speak as much and listen more and then be more responsive and engaging with him and ask the questions and truly listen versus in my mind, I used to, as soon as he'd talk, I think about what I wanted to say next and not be engaged in the conversation. I'd miss half of what he was saying because I was worried about what I was going to say.
Right.
So today I can say through lots of hard work, I'm able to hear him.
Yeah.
And listen better. And that's changed our communication exponentially and in a positive way. So that's it. It was just a great speak today. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. And, women operate more out of feelings, out of emotions, and majority of men, some men do, but I don't happen to know any of them that, really can really share their feelings open or that are very emotional. I'm sure that they are out there. But it's like, women want the romance. Women want to know that, to be told that they are pretty. They need to hear those things. They need to hear those things from their significant other. And then I believe men need to hear from their wives. I think the number one thing they need to hear is, thank you for working so hard for our family, for making us a good living. They need to be affirmed by their partner. I mean, men need that. And so, there is a good book, His Needs, Her Needs, that I recommend a lot for people to read. And then in same-sex marriage, what I have found is that there's usually one that is more dominant, male, one more dominant female. Anyway, it kind of works the same. But the main thing is the listening, and listen to people until you hear them. Just listening, doesn't get it. It's about actually hearing them and mirroring it back. And listen to so you can hear the feelings. And this is probably what I'm talking more to women. Listen to your partner until you can hear their feelings. And then because men do have feelings, I don't think they just know how to show them as much as women do. Yancy, what do you think?
Am I
Hello?
working this thing right?
Uh-huh.
Okay, I've never used this thing. I just listened to it. Good morning,
Well, good
Tennie.
morning. Let us see you.
Good to see you. What a
Okay,
wonderful,
but I want to
wonderful,
see you.
wonderful time.
I want to see you.
Well, let me figure it out.
Okay,
There
so
I am. I'm sitting on my couch at home,
okay.
enjoying y'all's talk. I appreciate all y'all are saying. It means so much to me.
Okay, well, we're saying it all to you because you're the only man on here. No, Earl's on here. So we're
Well, I
giving,
needed it.
we're giving you
I
the
needed to
full
hear
load.
it.
Now, let me refresh my memory. Haven't I known you a long time?
Yes, you have.
Tell me where.
I came knocking on the door of the Serenity House back in January of 1986.
I wanted you to say it. I knew, but that was yours to tell. Yep, I remember
Yes.
you well. And you're
Yes.
still sober?
Yes, ma'am.
Good,
Still-
congratulations.
Still sober. Just celebrated my 35th year in January
Wonderful.
and just got
Well,
back from a meeting.
good for you. Now, do you live in Abilene?
No, I retired and moved to Fort Smith, Arkansas.
Did you? Okay.
Yes.
Now, when you're on here, from here on, I want to see you. Okay.
Oh, okay. I just now learned how to use it. I seen the
All right.
button.
So you can join us. So have you learned something today about communication?
Yes, it brought back a lot of memories from the early days when I couldn't communicate with no one, especially a woman.
I know.
I did not know that until you explained that to me or to us many years ago, that men and women are totally different.
Uh-huh.
I did not know that. And I'm fixing to celebrate. This is a miracle in my life, but next month on the 20th, I'll celebrate 13 years with the same woman.
Good for you.
Now,
Woo!
that's a miracle for me because I don't know how many women I've known in my life, but this is the one that stuck when I got sober and clean in the program and started going to my meetings and doing the thing I'm supposed to do.
Well, and you probably learned how to treat a woman. If men can learn how to treat a woman, you'll be amazed at what you'll get back. Hope
Yeah, I've learned to do things I didn't know how to do. I've learned through the process, like buying flowers and listening. I'm a good listener today. I listen to what she says.
Good.
I may not always understand it, but I do question it.
Good.
And I've learned to communicate through just giving my time and my best shot at it and asking a lot of questions and listening to y'all.
Good. I remember you, but I wanted you to say where we knew each other. Yep, you were one of my clients many years ago.
Yeah, and your husband, RL, was my very first sponsor.
I remember that. Yes.
Yeah, I asked him to be my sponsor while I was in treatment. I was in that treatment for about 2 months, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good memories. Good
Yes, it is.
memories. Good to see you. Invite your wife to join us sometime. I'd love to meet her.
Who? My wife? Yes.
Invite your wife to join us.
Our internet's hanging up quite a bit. That's what's happening.
Okay. Well, hope to see you.
I think you froze up. You may see me, but you're just froze up.
Okay.
Give it a couple of seconds.
All right.
Yeah, it's freezing up. The internet's freezing up. Yeah, my wife is home someday. I'll invite her to come on.
Good. All righty. Hope to see you next week.
Thank y'all. Bye-bye.
I think we have time for one more. What about Terry? Terry, you know a lot about communication. You've taught me some good communication skills. Where's my friend T? Did you?
right here.
T. T, are you hearing me? There she is. You've taught me a lot about. Turn it on.
She's gonna unmute.
Unmute.
Yeah, I'm probably not in a good place to talk. That's why I've been not here. So you should talk to somebody who can really talk.
Do what?
I'm not in a good place to talk right now.
Got it. Okay.
Just listening. All right. See you
All right.
guys.
Looking good with those shades on. Good to
Yeah,
see you.
turn my mask here.
All righty. Good to see you. Okay, let's do one more. Who? Natalie, right here.
Yeah, I can't
Okay.
see the name.
Yeah, right.
With the long hair and the glasses.
Right.
Wrong card. We can't, you just raise your hand.
Yeah. Hello, the one that raised your hand. I think I know you. MIC? Right there.
Yeah.
Okay, all righty.
Go
Hello,
for it.
turn us on, unmute.
She is.
Meg.
Yeah.
Oh, me.
Yes.
Hi. Hi, Tennie. I wanted to tell you I've read your book, Shades of Hope, and it was wonderful. And I've spent 5 years trying to be an LCD counselor and then became a mom and gave it all up. But what I wanted to ask about communication was I went to 12-step programs for a long time, and then I eventually went to counseling to do one-on-one things. But I'm married to an adult child of an alcoholic. And also, I would say narcissist. Also, my therapist says I can't diagnose because I'm not a therapist. But the communication, he would say, I pay good money to not have to talk to you. When I would try to take what I learned in therapy and talk to him, he'd say, I pay good money to not have to talk to you. You talk to your therapist about those problems, not me. So we've been together 28 years, 30 years, like you were saying. I've tried to work it out. I get into all the things, the counseling things of saying, you're not an alcoholic, but you're a workaholic. You're a foodaholic. And I start, diagnosing the problem, which I have no right to do. But it's like he prides himself, he doesn't drink, but he has all the alcoholic behaviors. But he'll say, I'm not an alcoholic, so you can't assign those behaviors to me. And I don't care how much you studied and how many books you read about addiction. I lived amongst alcoholics. I know more than you do. So how would you respond to that?
Okay, respond out of love. And what I would recommend for you is stay in your own hula hoop, set a boundary. And he doesn't want to know how much you know. He has no interest. But what he would pay attention to if you live that in front of him, what I'd recommend. Have you ever gone to OA?
Yes.
Are you, do you go now?
Yes, ma'am.
You go now?
Uh-huh.
Do you work the program?
Not really.
Okay, so that's, until you get in really good shape yourself, quit pointing your finger at him. Set the example. And then, do you go to Al-Anon?
I have. I've done every program, ACOA, codependent.
But do you get a sponsor and work the steps?
I try to.
Trying is lying.
Yeah.
Do you work the steps?
I mean, I have. But when I went to ACOA, I got to step 3 and it was so difficult in the workbook. It was like, I'll go to one program and I'll say, well, maybe I should go back to codependency and work on that because that's my big issue, or maybe I should work on it in therapy.
I'll tell you the best way to work a good codependency program is if you have any addiction like overeating or alcohol or anything, work on that addiction. And then doing that, focus on that one program. That will help you in your codependency because it's going to take your eyes off of your husband and put them on you. And then see him through the eyes of love. Being married to an adult child of an alcoholic is like being married to a dry alcoholic. He has all the isms, but he's not drinking. And I will tell you, if you change, and I'm not throwing bouquets at myself, but I spent 14 years in Al-Anon. And when my husband went to his first AA meeting, I wasn't in there, but he's told it many times, and people in the rooms told me that he got up and he said, I don't know what my wife has found up here, but I want what she has. That is the best compliment that an alcoholic could give to an Al-Anon. And so I would support you in staying in your own hula hoop. Don't tell him what he needs to do. Don't try to diagnose it. I did all of that and it didn't work. And it hadn't worked for you. So I would recommend working on your eating disorder. I'd recommend you come here maybe and do a 4-day intensive. Have you ever done anything like that and worked on your childhood?
Just one-on-one with a
What would keep
guidance
you from doing?
counselor.
What would keep you from coming and doing a 4-day? Where do you live?
I live in near Houston in the Woodlands.
I would really support you in checking out the 4-day intensive. So many, nearly everyone on here has done a 4-day, if not inpatient. But that 4-day will help you look at what the baggage that you brought into the marriage.
Right.
So, but you know a lot, but he doesn't care how much you know.
Would you ever, also wanted to ask you, would you ever get to do more videos like that, Addicted to Food? That was so helpful. And I imagine it was helpful for many people.
Yeah, thousands. The video is on my YouTube channel.
Right.
Yes.
But would you ever do more?
I would if I'm asked. I have to be asked. They don't just give away $1 million shows like that. I mean,
it's so helpful to see the process of treatment, the detox, and then the family and all. That was so helpful to me.
Yeah, yeah. And there's nothing like going through the experience yourself. So I would really encourage you to come do a 4-day. I'm going to be in Houston in September to speak down there, but and we'll be announcing it on here. But consider just call the office and and get information about the 4-day. It can be life-changing for you, I think. And those that are on here that have been to a 4-day, shake your head yes or no. All right.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you for complimenting the book. Thank you. Thank you. That was my only purpose of writing it, if it would help one person. So thank you. Thank you. All righty. Next week, we're going to be talking about abstinence and what abstinence looks like and all addictions, through substance abuse and process addictions. What does abstinence looks like? There's a new movement, and I'm looking at it. I mean, there's always things in the addiction field. There's really a new movement about that abstinence, even from addiction, can look different. Now, I'm not, anyway, I'm open to hearing, I'm open to anything that might help a severe drug addict or severe alcoholic. I'm more open to a different type of abstinence with a drug addict than with an alcoholic. But anyway, join me and let's talk about what your abstinence looks like. And then those process addictions, they're a little different. So let's talk about what abstinence looks like for you and all addictions. And, I'm dressed in red, white, and blue, and that means Happy Memorial Day. Be sure and tell some service person that you see, thank them for their service, and without them, through the years, the many, many years of keeping our country safe, we wouldn't be here today. So thank all of you, and thank Karen for her first time doing the Zoom meeting. Thank you. She's a retired school teacher, and she said that Cam had to be away, and so she said that she would do it. Thank you, Karen Lely. Love y'all. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.